Thanks for joining us on our streaming service for your First Alert Avalanche Report. I'm your First Alert meteorologist, Callie Zanandri, and joining me is the Deputy Director of the Colorado Avalanche Information Center, Brian Lazar. Brian, on January 7th, an avalanche caught, buried, and killed a backcountry skier, Don Moden Jr., on Red Mountain number 3, about 6 miles east of Telluride. You just published the full report of the incident, and these reports provide learning opportunities for all of us. What can we take away from this terrible accident?
Yeah, first, our condolences go out to all the friends and family that were associated with this victim. All these avalanche accidents are tragic. And as you noted, we do publish these reports, hopefully, so that people can learn from them and prevent future outcomes like this down the road. A couple of things that we can learn from this is that, this avalanche was triggered on a period of moderate avalanche danger, which is kind of the theme as we move into this weekend, essentially, that moderate avalanche danger does not mean safe avalanche conditions. One of the other lessons that comes out of this is that, this person was essentially traveling alone in the backcountry, and that is a very personal choice, but that always does increase the risks in the event that something goes wrong. And lastly, I do want to point out that the conditions that existed last week when this fatal avalanche accident occurred are going to be very similar to the conditions that we experienced this holiday weekend. And so I hope this is a very illustrative example that people take to heart so that they avoid outcomes like that this weekend. And let me just show you essentially what the weekend's going to look like. As we've mentioned, we've been hammering for the better part of a month now. We've been in very dangerous avalanche conditions. We've had considerable avalanche danger, which is the orange colors on the map, are level 3 out of 5. We are slowly creeping into moderate avalanche danger, which is all this yellow on the map, which is level 2 of 5, but that is not safe avalanche conditions. And I kind of want to show essentially what the danger scale is like. So it appears as kind of these stepwise bins as we present avalanche danger on our homepage map, but there is a range of conditions within every avalanche danger rating. And right now we are very close to the line between moderate or level 2 avalanche danger or considerable, which is level 3 avalanche danger. So we are on the upper end of moderate avalanche danger, which essentially means we still have a lot of slopes that are ripe for human triggering. And why are we dropping down to moderate is because the chances of an avalanche are slowly going down. So we have had quite the run, which is why we've had such considerable avalanche danger for almost a month, which is very unusual even for us in Colorado. But essentially since Christmas, we've had human triggered avalanches, many of them triggered from a distance or remotely, many of them triggered from the bottom of the slope, and a sizable portion of these were big enough to bury, injure, or kill a person. So that's every day for weeks we've had human triggered avalanches. But as you can see in this graphic, the number of avalanches, human triggered avalanches, is decreasing, and it's decreasing in a really predictable fashion, but it doesn't mean they're out of the picture completely. And the point here is that the chances of triggering an avalanche are going down. So when you read our avalanche forecast, you'll see these two slider bars along the kinds of avalanches that we show you, we expect you to encounter. So the chances have dropped from likely to possible, which means there is still a chance that people can trigger avalanches. But importantly, the size component or the consequences of triggering an avalanche have not decreased at all. So again, the chances are going down, but the consequences are not. And that's what leads us into this, essentially fairly scary period of moderate avalanche danger where you don't have lots of signs of instability. You may travel all day, see no shooting cracks, no collapsing. You may not even trigger avalanches, but if you do, they're going to be very large and destructive. And here's what some of these look like. And these are happening, across almost all of our mountain ranges, from the Park Range up near Steamboat through the Front Range, Summit County, Vail, the Central Mountains, the Elks, and down into the San Juan Mountains. And the pattern looks very similar depending on where you're going. And you can see many of these avalanches starting to break very deep. Some of them are going down to the ground, like this one from Berthoud Pass. Here was a remotely triggered avalanche near the Breckenridge area, and you can see just how destructive some of these avalanches are. These are the kinds of avalanches that are going to be difficult to survive. You can imagine taking a ride with blocks and chunks, the size of small tables or even small cars. could really beat somebody up and just lead to trauma, even if the person is not buried. And again, you can see a lot of the slopes that we're warning people to avoid look like this. They're wind-swept ridges with fat wind-loaded slopes right below convex rolls, particularly near rocky areas like in this image. And then here's my kind of last image from the Elk Mountains, and you can see where these avalanches are breaking again on wind-loaded slopes a little bit below the ridgeline in steep rocky terrain.
Now, Brian, more snow is on the way this weekend. An Arctic front is moving in, and that's going to drop temperatures. That means we're going to see some light and fluffy snow, but it's really going to stack up. How will that impact avalanche conditions going into this weekend?
Yeah, you mentioned two things, and the first one is the cold, and we definitely have some really Arctic temperatures coming our way. That's going to have little to no impact on the avalanche danger. Essentially, when temperatures are this cold, nothing changes that quickly, and that includes inside the snowpack. But it will, present some threats for, exposure. So you do want people to make sure that they're prepared appropriately with the right clothing. But the thing that might move the needle on the avalanche danger is the incoming snow. So as you mentioned, here's the snow that arrives kind of late Friday and through Saturday. And you can see this is favoring mostly the northern mountains, the Park Range, the Elkhead Mountains, and along the Front Range, extending down the east side of the Continental Divide, maybe into the Sangre de Cristos. In those areas, particularly on the Park Range, we could see upwards of a foot of storm totals by the end of the weekend. And that will drive us to get back to level 3 or considerable avalanche dangers in those northern mountains. But again, even though you might see a mix of orange or yellow on the map this weekend, we're very close to the line. So, even the places that are in considerable avalanche danger, which are getting all this new snow, are going to be more obviously dangerous. But please be cognizant of all these moderate areas, because the consequences of triggering an avalanche are still severe, as the recent fatality demonstrates.
So always check the forecast before you head out, especially this holiday weekend. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Brian, and we'll see you here next week for your First Alert Avalanche Report.
Great. Thank you for having us. Have a great holiday weekend.